This is Vic, and once again, I'm going to be talking about my 2014 Cadillac ELR, and I will give you an update on my mileage as usual. Before I get into my average gas mileage on my ELR, first I will talk about an overview of the major components that play into the system as I understand it. Now, what you're looking at is my car being plugged in and being charged while it's outside of my garage. Typically, I park it inside of my garage. However, I decided on April 18th of 2016 to park it outside so that I can take a picture for the purposes of making a presentation. And I will first talk about some of the major components as I understand them of this redesign or re-engineer of the engineering plan, as I'll call it, of an automobile by General Motors. First of all, there's the power supply, or commonly referred to as the battery. The power supply, as I understand it, runs along the center of the automobile under the center console and comes to a T under the back seat. There is a small back seat in the back of the ELR, and the same thing holds true for the Chevrolet Volt. The power supply comes to a T under the back seat. When the car is plugged in and is charging the power supply, then the power supply will provide power to the electric motors that drive the front wheels. The wheels are driven by electric motors. It's a front wheel drive car, and they're driven by electric motors. Now, although the car does in fact have a generator or gasoline engine, the engine is a prime mover for an electricity generator. So if and when I travel long distance, say for example further than 40 or 50 miles away, then I become just like any other vehicle on the road, except I'm traveling much more efficiently. And I'm just like any other vehicle in that as long as there's a gas station, I can use gasoline as long as my generator needs gas. So if I'm unable to plug in my car, I can still run my generator, which is the gas engine. I run my generator, which allows me to do two things at the same time. That is, keep on driving, and it adds to the charge of the power supply. So once the charge of the power supply is to a reasonable level, then I can turn off my generator and continue driving without the engine running. So it's a very unique design as far as the engineering plant or the drivetrain of the automobile goes. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about the cost of driving the car around the city. Most cars cost a lot more money in order to drive them around the city wherever you live. Whatever city you live in, generally speaking, your gas mileage is going to actually go way down. And that is the opposite of the extended range electric vehicles produced by General Motors or the Cadillac ELR. The more I drive it around the city, the higher and higher I see the less it costs me to drive around the city than the average automobile. I'll put it that way. For every dollar spent on gasoline, for every dollar somebody spends on gas, I will spend a few cents on electricity to travel the same distance within a given city. Okay, now we'll look at the mileage of my car. My lifetime mileage as of August 2nd, 2016 was 94.3 miles per gallon. That was my lifetime average. On this particular day that this photograph was taken, you see I drove a total of 46.2 miles, and I used the gasoline generator or engine for 6.6 of those miles. And that equated to an average for that day of 250 plus miles per gallon. So for 46.2 miles, I used 0.17 gallons of gas, less than a quarter of a gallon of gas to drive 46.2 miles. And that was on August 2nd of 2016. Now here on August 4th, you see I drove on that day 33.1 miles. All of it was on electricity that was power that was stored in the power supply. My lifetime average now, remember the day before on the last slide it was 94.3. Now it's up to 94.6 miles per gallon. My miles per gallon for this particular day, on this individual day, was 250 plus mpg. This is the maximum number that the display will show when I use no gasoline at all. Well, the highest it will show, period, under any situation, under any circumstances, 250 plus mpg. I'm going to go ahead and back up and look at the previous day. Again, it showed 250 plus mpg, and even though I used some gas on that particular day, for 6.6 miles, I used my generator to generate some electricity. I used 0.17 gallons of gas to drive a total of 46.2 miles. And that, again, was an average for that session of 250 plus mpg. And here we are a couple of days later. 94.6 is my lifetime average. And this is as a result of using this vehicle. This is my ELR, is my daily driver. I drive it every day. It's the only car that I own. And I drive it around the city. I drive it on the highway. Now the ELR costs less per day, per mile to drive, thanks to General Motors, thanks to Cadillac and General Motors. Most cars, when you drive them around the city, cost a lot more to drive within city limits. Not true with the extended range electric vehicles delivered to us by General Motors or the Cadillac ELR.